Hello and welcome to the channel. This video will be about using Google and Github providers with Nextauth.JS. In this video, we will implement authentication and user sign-in functionalities in Next.js. First, go to Nextauth website, then click on Get Started. Now copy npm install Nextauth and paste it in the terminal and run it. Open another instance of the terminal and run the application npm run dev. Now in the app directory in the project folder, create a directory called API. Inside it, create another directory called auth. And then inside it, create a dynamic route with square brackets and use paid operator, then next-auth. Finally, create the route.js file for the authentication endpoint. First, import next-auth function from the next-auth/next module. Then define a function called handler. The handler function takes in a standard request and response objects provided on Next.js API routes. The handler function then calls a next-auth function with these request and response objects along with the auth options object, which I will be creating shortly. Module.exports exports an object that defines the API route, get and post, both of which have the same value for the handler function. The same handler function will be used to handle both get and post requests to the API route. Create a file for the auth options in the app directory. Auth options.js. Now import the Google Provider. From Nextauth. /providers /Google. Now declare the auth options object, export cons auth options. The auth options objects will contain an array called providers, which is used to configure the authentication providers for Google, GitHub, or any other providers. Each provider is initialized with a configuration object containing the necessary credentials like client ID, client secret for the specific provider, which I will be generating shortly. In the Nextauth website, go to the Providers tab in the side panel, then click on Google. You will see a new under configuration, click on it. You will be redirected to developer's console. Click on Create Credentials near the top and then select Oauth Client ID. Select the application type as web application. Give a name for your application. And then in the authorized JavaScript origin, enter HTTP localhost 3000. Do not put HTTPS, just HTTP. In the authorized redirect URI, enter http://localhost:/API/auth/callback/Google. This is a URL for authentication API endpoint in the project folder. If you ever push your app to the production, then in place of localhost, you should put the domain name of the application. And your ID and client secret is generated. Go to your project and create a .env file in the main project directory. In the .env file, create two variables for client ID and client secret. Then copy the client ID from the console, paste it, and also copy the client secret and paste it. Save it. You will also have to put the next-auth underscore URL http localhost 3000 and a next-auth underscore secret. You can put anything here. I'm just going to write next-auth secret, or you can generate alphanumeric key and paste it here. Now go to the auth options and client ID. In the Google Provider, client ID colon process.env.google client underscore ID. This is the client ID from the .env file, and also bring in the client secret process.env google underscore client underscore secret. Then after that, the object will also contain the secret property within the auth options is used to set the secret. That Nextauth.JS will be used for cryptographic operations and to secure cookies. Okay, so process.env next-auth underscore secret. Save it. Now import the option object in the route.js file. Auth options from, then pass the auth option object in the handler function. Now create a new file called provider.js, which will be a client component and will contain a function that will return the session provider. Provider.js, initiate the use client directive. Then import the session provider from Next.auth React. The session provider manages authentication state and provides session data to the rest of the application. Now export cons next-auth provider. Let's see, I will be passing the children as a prop. The children prop allows us to wrap other components inside the Next.auth provider. The children components gets wrapped by the session provider and receives access to the session data and authentication status by Next.auth.js. Now in the layer.js, import a next-auth provider function from provider.js and wrap the children prop inside the Next.auth provider. Save it. Okay, the setting up of Nextauth is complete now. Next, I'm going to build a login place that I will use to log in using Google. To create the login page, first create a folder called login. Inside the folder, create a paste.js file. This will be a React functional component, so rafce. Then import use session from Nextauth here. The use session hook is used here to access the user session data. It returns an object that contains user session information, including details like the user's name, email, and other relevant data. The data property of the return object is destructured and named to session. Also import sign in and sign out. Now I will create a ternary operator. If it is in session, then I will return. you are not signed in, and below it I will create a button. Sign in with Google, and on click detail call the sign in function, which is a built-in Next.JS function, next-auth function, sorry. Or now when if I am logged in, and just welcome, and then I will sign out if I want to sign out. Let's go to our login page. Okay, I will have to call the use client directive at the top of the page, because the use session is purely a client-side function. Okay, I think I have mixed them up. The welcome part should be first. Save it. Now let's sign in. Okay, sign in with Google. You can also display the username. Okay, let me set it somewhere in the middle. Text center, margin of 15. Then this will be 16. Can also display the email ID of the user. Okay, and finally we can also display the profile picture of the user. Okay, well, that's for the authentication using Google Provider. For the GitHub Provider, go to the GitHub page, go to settings, and go to developer settings at the end of in the left hand panel. Click on Oauth apps and then click on new Oauth app. Give a name for application in the home URL, and under the authorization callback URL type http://localhost:3000/API/auth/callback/GitHub, and then click on register application. Once you do that, your client ID will be generated. Copy the client ID, then go to .env file and create a new variable GitHub client ID, and paste the client ID there. Also create another variable for the client secret. Now you have to generate the client secret. Click here, then copy the client secret and paste it over here. Save it, then go and do restart the application if you make some changes to the .env file, and then go to the auth options file and import the GitHub Provider from Nextauth provider's GitHub. The provider's array is an array, so just add GitHub Provider to the array list. GitHub providers, and instead of Google, GitHub, again GitHub, save it, click in sign in. You can see the sign in GitHub button is there. And now you can sign in using GitHub also. I will since it sign in with Google and GitHub. Save it, sign out. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you, and I will see you on the next one.